Hello, my friends. Welcome to Tea with Amber. Let me know you're here because that's always wonderful to see that people are showing up. And hello, my daughter is always the first one. Hi, Mama. Hi, Nandi. Happy to have you here, darling. I can't believe it's already Tuesday at 4. How quickly the days go by, how quickly the week goes by. And I just want to let you know what a privilege it has been for me to prepare my thoughts for every Tea with Amber episode. It's not easy, only because I want to, as my daughters always remind me, Mom, you've got to be real and you've got to be relevant. And which is, of course, a perfect way for us to show up in our world. But preparing for our Tea with Amber, I mean, I go through like, what should I speak about and what will be relevant and what is, what will connect people to themselves ultimately. So um, just know that I am deeply honored that you show up and you're kind enough to enjoy a cup of tea with me. So I'm enjoying a lemon ginger tea today, and it's a beautiful day outside. And it's a very deep time that we are all going through. So let me take a sip of my tea. I hope you're doing the same. And let me share a few reflections about this time. Um, the thread that has gone through my Tea with Amber episodes, we're now at number 10, has always been that we live in our stories. Our stories matter. We are our stories. We connect to each other through our stories. But when we find that the story we live under suffocates us, brutalizes us, um, tethers us, strangles us, a story where we cannot breathe because we are living under its chokehold. When we come to that place in our lives and in our world, we know that a story is coming to an end. A story has to come to an end. Either we will die, our spirits will die in that deep pain of the story that never ever supported us, or our spirits will rise. We will rise exhausted, we will rise enraged, we will rise enlivened. And our clarion call as we rise into that new story will be enough, no more. So, um, we have arrived at that place now where we can see that the story is coming to an end. This dominant narrative based on oppression, based on hierarchy, enslavement, and control is coming to an end. And it has held all of us captive, but it has especially brutalized, massacred, slaughtered, scarred our Black brothers and sisters and our Indigenous people in this country. 10 days ago, with the murder of George Floyd, a firestorm swept through the United States and rippled with its rippled effects overseas in the world. That moment was a historic moment. And and in that in that place of just abject suffering, we could see that we were now being called. We were being called to a new time, that we could not sit back while the voices of Black Lives Matter got louder and more fierce and reminded us that no longer would they live under that story, and no longer should any of us live under that story. The death knell of the old story is rippling through the world. And as with every death knell, it doesn't go quietly, it doesn't go gently into the night, it goes with ferocity. And so we have to remind ourselves that we are in this together. No longer are we alone in the pain of seeing an old story die. No longer. We are truly, deeply together in this. And I find that probably one of the most heartening, revolutionary experiences that I'm going through personally. And yet, underneath the gunfire, underneath the police brutality, we know that there are the whisperings of a new story. What we're really talking about here is a love story that we are all seeking to live into, a love story based on freedom and friendship, justice and joy, longing and belonging. This is the story of possibility. This is a story that belongs to us all. So we are standing at the crossroads of this time. And we have to choose. The crossroads demands it of us. Will we allow ourselves to go to be subjugated and suffocated by an old story that never worked because we're afraid and we're crippled by our fear, we're crippled by our silenced voices? Or are we going to find the courage, the tender courage, the vulnerable courage to step out and say, we rise up? This is an uprising of the heart, and we will not stand down. As I have been reflecting on the Black Lives Matter movement, I have realized that this movement is our guide into the new story. Through the voices of the Black Lives Movement, we are being given extraordinary messages as to how we can drop the old story and move into the new story. The movement is our guide, the movement is our messenger, and we must pay attention. We must listen and listen more deeply. And the voice of the movement that is calling all of us on the planet into the new story is the voice of resistance, the voice of resilience, and the voice of rising. There is no better messenger of that voice than that of Maya Angelou in her extraordinary anthem called Still I Rise. And I feel deeply privileged, my friends, to read you Still I Rise by Maya Angelou. It speaks to all of us even more today. So let us sit back, close your eyes if you want, and let me share with you Maya Angelou's anthem to resistance, resilience, rebellion, and rising up. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room? Just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides, just like hopes springing high, still I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, because I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my backyard. You may shoot me with your words. You may cat me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness. But still, like air, I rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise into a daybreak that's wondrously clear. I rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. So, in order for us to rise, we must walk the fire path. I call it the fire path of our becoming. There is no easy way to step into the new story. There is no gentle way. But there is a fire that we have all got to walk through. We can't escape it unless we choose to deny it. The fire path is an initiation. It's humanity's rite of passage. It's coming to the threshold and knowing that there is no going back. The past has pushed us all out. And that instead, on the fire path of becoming, we recognize, we trust, we honor, we celebrate that each of us together are creating the new story moment by moment by moment, step by step by step. That the new story of possibility, the love story we are seeking to live into, is there. But we must walk the fire path. And as I have been reflecting on the fire path at this time, and deeply recognizing that the Black Lives Matter movement message is so critical to giving us the tools, the guidance, the wisdom that we all need, white, brown, black, it doesn't matter. But as I said, this Black Lives movement is more than just a uprising. It's a rising up, but it's something, it's a movement that is calling all of us. And for that, I'm deeply grateful to all my Black brothers and sisters for showing the way. So here are some of the reflections for the fire path for all of us. One, the fire path is hard and we have to sit in our discomfort. How hard is that? Who wants to sit in discomfort? We are pleasure seekers. We're looking for fun. We're looking for ways to distract ourselves, to numb ourselves. Anything but to sit in discomfort. And yet, here, in the most profound way, we are being called to our discomfort. Discomfort asks us to face the truth of who we are in a way that is going to be painful, because, of course, we have protected ourselves with layers and layers and layers of conditioned mind, conditioned worldviews. We have all been conditioned and enslaved into a system that has reminded us that we are not enough, or that we must hide away, or silence, which is the tool of white supremacy in this sense. Silence is the best way to move through the world. We have been taught that. So to sit in the discomfort of knowing that truth is very hard. But let us remind ourselves we are doing this together. We are holding each other through this. I live in a very wonderful, beautiful community here in Western Massachusetts, and most of my friends are white. And most of my friends are part of the white privileged experience. So you can imagine the conversations in the past over the past 2 weeks, conversations rippling to the surface, conversations from them, reflections and insights like, why didn't I know this before? Why didn't I know the history of Black people in this country and the Indigenous people? Why didn't I know? Why was I so ignorant? There is pain when we acknowledge our ignorance. And yet there is bravery when we decide to sit in that and meet it. And I'm watching my friends, reading, researching, wanting to share books, wanting to learn, wanting to wake up. The fire path is a time to wake up from our ignorance, and we are all ignorant. The fire path invites us to feel into our pain. That's part of discomfort, but it is feeling into our pain, feeling into the grief. Feel if the tears are welling up and you're feeling heavy, allow those feelings to be there because that is the way we're going to break through this habit, this conditioned mindset. We're going to feel our way through it. And on the other side will be the breakthrough because our feelings do not lie. They do not keep secrets from us. Our feelings are our truth point, and we must trust them and recognize there is deep beauty in our feelings. I've been thinking about shame because I have several friends who've talked about feeling shame. And I do not really like that word shame and blame. I think they're part of the same paradigm. Blame, you're seeking to look at the other and put the burden onto them. Shame, you're sort of looking at yourself, but from this place of disconnection, of self, I don't know, self hate, self loathing. Remorse is something different. Feeling the remorse of this time for what has happened to the history of this country is very powerful. It's a powerful feeling, but it comes out of love of self. So I want to reflect more on this sense of what does it look like to be in the shame of an experience, and what does it look like to be in the remorse of it. This is a time as we feel through the pain where we must deeply apologize for all the ways in which we too have been complicit in this. Shame, I'm thinking of a friend of mine. I belong to a wonderful circle of women. We call ourselves the South Asian Women's Collaborative, the SAUCIs. And we're all brown skinned women, all of us who'd married white American men. It's very interesting. But we gather. And one of the women, a wonderful woman, educated, upper middle class, mother of children, spoke the other day in circle of the shame she felt. And here's why she felt the shame. She had decided and chosen to really focus on her family, her children, and keep all of the information, everything that was happening outside of her home away. So she could just calmly and in balance show up for her family and her work and her life. And she arrived at the protest that we had in our town carrying a banner. Um, and the banner said, "All lives matter." She hadn't listened into this conversation about how at this time it was important not to show up with all lives matter. She hadn't heard it because she had kept it all away and been in her own little bubble. So of course, people were upset with her, and she became upset, and she, through her tears, spoke about what it was like to feel the shame of that moment, knowing that she had, in a sense, by stepping out of the conversation that was so important, she had actually, in the end, deeply pained herself. So we all are experiencing that because part of the journey on the fire path is we make mistakes. We're not perfect. We're going to fall, and we're going to fall many times, but that's okay. And in her sharing the pain she was going through, she felt held by this community of support. And that is what is going to help us on this fire path. I too have a story, a personal story that I want to share with you about um, a situation that happened about a year and a half ago. I was out of town, and my daughter, who is an impassioned educator, amazing young woman, teaches in Boston, and has been very connected to the Black Lives Movement for many, many, many years. And while I was away, she came to the house, to the place, and with her friend, her black friend, they were going to spend the weekend here. Now, I have a collection of dolls that I have gathered from all my travels in the world. I have Afghani dolls, Iraqi dolls, Bolivian dolls. And it so happened that in my doll collection, there was this black doll that a friend had given me. The black doll was a cloth doll. She had a little dress and she had her hair sticking out. And so, in a way, there was this characterization, the stereotypical characterization of the black persona encapsulated in the doll. So the doll is sitting in my bedroom with my collection. And this lovely young woman went to sleep in my bedroom and she saw the doll and she rushed out. She couldn't breathe. And she said to my daughter, "Your mother is a racist." And my daughter said, "No, no, my mother's not a racist." But to that young woman in that moment, 400 years of history came crashing in on her. And however much I could defend myself, and I like to collect dolls, and whatever protection and defense I could bring to it, the point was here was pain. Here was pain. And I had to really acknowledge it. My daughter took that doll, burnt it, and then threw it in the lake and said, "No more." That was a lesson I had to learn. So we have to meet our pain. We have to recognize how we are all complicit in this. Nobody is exempt from racism. Nobody is exempt from that, no matter how much we like to see ourselves as good, as liberal, as kind, etc. No matter. And that's why the fire path is important. We have to meet this now because the new story that we're seeking to live into, the love story, cannot show up until this has been met. I've been on my Facebook feeds a lot, listening to conversations, and several conversations came through this week that I want to just share an excerpt of them. One was from a young man called Dax Devlon Ross. It was a letter to my white male friends of a certain age. And he was speaking, again, to white privilege. And he said this, and I found it so powerful. So, reminding ourselves that we are on the fire path, he said, "Stare into the abyss, the hole, the missing parts of your humanity that keep you from being able to connect deeply with people of color. Look back on your life experience to find out what happened to you regarding race, how it affected you, and use that information to change your life because we need you fully in the fight. Just be human and go in." I find that a powerful way of saying, walk the fire path, stare into the abyss, Look deep into yourself, but know that you are human. And in your humanity, in your vulnerability, in your fragility, all of it, let us walk in together. What an extraordinary message that is to all of us. And then there's this other message that I want to read. It comes from a woman by the name of Elizabeth Blackshine, and just a short excerpt. But she was speaking to the fire path that she and her people and her ancestors have walked on for 400 years. She said, what are we saying? We tired, we hurt, we strong, we magic, we human, we brilliant. You didn't listen, you didn't cherish. We can barely breathe. We don't trust you or your new burst of generosity, but we want to. We really do. So keep it up. Dedication with longevity helps trust grow. So we remind ourselves that this is a long journey. These bursts of activity and bursts of energy regarding all of this are bursts. And we need our little sparks and bursts, but we need to do the work. And the work is a work of a lifetime. And we need to hold each other through this work, this deep, beautiful work that we are all called into. Because the new story, the love story, and I really believe this, that story of possibility is in us. Like the seed of an oak tree, she is seeking to bloom and blossom. But first, she says, make sure you water the seeds. Make sure you're patient, even in your impatience. And remember to rise up into this new story. So, my friends, my tea with Amber has come to an end. I'm sending you great love as we all walk the fire path together. So be well, take care of yourself, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.